I had an outpatient procedure done in Omaha that really is generally considered very common, very routine, and the procedure went well. Somewhere around about an hour into the drive home, I started to notice a lump on my neck. Felt strange, but we continued to push on home, but then it kept growing. He advised, to get to the nearest emergency room. By this time we were near Aurora, Nebraska, and we were debating if we should pull off in Aurora or push on home, and we felt that the best method was to push on home to Grand Island Regional. But by that time I was in full-on respiratory distress. I could not breathe. I came in and they immediately, I actually knocked on the door of the ER begging for help. I had taken my last breath just walking into the facility. They knew immediately that I was in an emergency situation. They took me in, and my memories from that point forward are a little bit hazy. But my wife, she's very strong lady, was there in the room the entire time. The ER team sprung to action, and they determined that I was having a hematoma. 2 arteries had burst in my neck, and that was causing this inflammation, this swelling that cut off my air supply. So I know they called in an ENT surgeon, Dr. Bliss. Dr. Bliss knew right away, based on his experience, he knew right away that I was having internal bleeding. So they sprang into action, and my wife describes it as a scene out of MASH. They operated on me right there in the ER because my airway was so compressed they couldn't get the tube in me for intubation. So they had to actually extract the blood from my neck in order to free up that pressure. And Dr. Bliss got that taken care of very quickly, and they were able to intubate me. And that really saved my life. I remember very distinctly when it was time for that tube to come out. When I was stabilized, they had me stable, and it was time for that tube to come out. I remember, was more than happy for that tube to come out. But that first breath after that tube came out was amazing, because then I knew I was not going to die. The facilities here, the folks here in the intensive care were amazing. They were monitoring my health, monitoring my situation very closely. Wonderful bedside manners. I know that there was a lot of doctors who came and saw me even when I was unconscious on the respirator. Dr. White stopped in to make sure that nothing went wrong with the surgery I had. Just check in and make sure that was still going well. But my experience here is these folks saved my life, pure and simple. I mean, I had minutes to spare. It was literally to that point. They told me later that while they were struggling to intubate me, I was without oxygen for 3 minutes, and brain damage starts at 4. So they came within an inch of my life, but they managed to save my life. It was a very dire situation. I'm grateful to the ER team that worked so hard to get me intubated when it was such a difficult situation. I understand that they used a pediatric intubation tube eventually. I thought that was pretty ingenious to try that. Really, that almost immediately once I got intubated, I started stabilizing. The care nurses in ICU were fantastic. Checking in on and making sure I had access to the Husker game. One of the nurses, because I was asking about the game while I was while I was intubated, because I had in my little moments of awakening, I wrote a note to my wife about the Husker game, or do they have TV here, or is the Husker game going to be on? Apparently my priorities are top notch. So really wonderful group of people. Like I said, it made a bad situation much more tolerable.